What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk Week 18 kickoff show live here on DSM Media's NFL Turf Talk YouTube channel, the DSM Media Twitter channel, and the DSM Media Twitch channel. Guys, if you are new to the channel, first and foremost, if you want to be interactive throughout today's show, make sure to head on over to the YouTube channel specifically. That is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host. I am one half of them, Dylan Davis. To my left, my faithful co-host, Scotty. My man, happy Sunday. This season has 1000% flown by. I remember going back to the beginning of September and late August and just sitting here, can't wait for football, 18 long weeks of football. And here it's come and gone as we get ready for the postseason, man. But that makes it all the much more fun, all the much more intense here on the show as we get into our playoff scenarios, pick'ems, updated power rankings, and much more throughout today's show. So guys, please smash that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. But my man, happy Sunday.
Yeah, happy Sunday, man. Happy to see you. Obviously been a very busy start to the new year, man. And what better way than to, kind of finalize the NFL regular season today with the final preview, man. It's been a long season, like you mentioned, but it just flew by, man. It flies by every single time. And being here every Sunday, talking about it, breaking it down, coming back Thursday, breaking it down. It just makes the week-to-week stuff fly by, man. It really speeds up the regular season. I don't know about you guys, but definitely enjoyed it this year even more. We just keep growing and building the community and figuring out the best way to deliver the content as well. So the NFL season gets better. It gets more interesting as we approach the playoffs. And yeah, man, this is the best part, right?
Yeah. No, and it's been a pretty crazy season, man, because you go back to week one and even prior to that, as we're doing our divisional breakdowns, and you kind of look back at some of these teams that maybe we had coming in fourth place, maybe we had coming in third place in their respective divisions. And I mean, you could point directly to the Cleveland Browns. And I mean, 11-5, obviously resting starters because they've already locked up a wild card spot is unbelievable, right? Vice versa, you have injuries galore at the quarterback position this year. A team I had, maybe making a deep run into the AFC playoff picture in the New York Jets, obviously just had a ridiculous season of quarterback issues, media issues, Aaron Rodgers stuff, Zach Wilson stuff. So it has been a very long but quick season, right? Bengals sitting here at 8-8, right? With no Joe Burrow. It's been a lot, man. It's been a lot. But let's get into some of these playoff scenarios.
No doubt. So we're going to kind of do it. I have the ESPN article pulled up here, just breaking down each and every playoff scenario for each and every game today. The ones that matter, right? So we can just kind of go in the order of this article. I just have the article pulled up so we make sure we have all the stipulations that are in play here. And have a full understanding of what's in play for each game. So we'll start at the top. We have those Browns that you mentioned, the 11-5 Browns visiting the Cincinnati Bengals. Says here the Bengals are looking to avoid going winless in divisional play. Jeff Driscoll's getting the start for the Browns. Joe Flacco's gonna get the benching right there to rest for the playoffs. The stat to know looks like both teams will have players scored their first offensive touchdowns for the Browns. That could be. So it looks like there's no playoff implications. Let me get an understanding here.
I mean, the only thing I'm looking at in this game would be are the Browns locked into their seed? Or are the Cleveland Browns locked into the 5 seed in the AFC?
The Browns are in the playoffs and buckled into the number 5 seed while the Bengals were eliminated in week 17.
See, that's interesting
not much
because
playoff implications there.
Because the Dolphins are 11-5, the Bills are 10-6, and you obviously, if the Bills win that game, both are 11-5. So I wasn't sure if Cleveland was strapped into that 5 seed or not. But if they are, obviously, very good on them, and whoever is sitting in that 4 seed, not too happy. I would assume come wild card weekend.
Absolutely, the Browns are not the team that you want to play in wild card weekend. I can promise you that. Moving on to the next game here. So this one actually does have playoff implications.
Good.
So we have the 7-9 Vikings visiting the 11-5 Detroit Lions. Now, when you look at this matchup, the Detroit Lions, they are going to be the NFC North champion. That's locked in. It's really just about whether or not they're going to be the number 2 or the number 3 seed in the NFC. So for the most part, it says here that they can relax, but the Vikings are actually still in play for the playoffs. They would have to win today. They would also need the Packers to lose and the Seahawks to lose, along with either a Saints loss or a Buccaneers loss. All in all,
Yeah,
3% chance to make the
yeah,
playoffs.
not asking a lot, are they?
Yeah, that's a lot to transpire here. But I guess I would ask you this about this matchup between the Vikings and the Lions. Looking at it from Detroit's perspective, how important do you feel it is to get like the 2 seed versus the 3 seed? Obviously, Dallas, I believe,
Yeah.
would have to lose for that to happen,
I
or I
believe,
guess
yeah, because they beat them head to head,
yeah,
obviously, and if they both win, that would put both at what 12-5 to end the season. So yeah, Dallas would need to lose, and the Lions would need to win for the Lions to be the 2 seed. And obviously, the Eagles in a very familiar situation with the Lions because they need Dallas to lose and them to win to take over the NFC East division title, right? But for the Lions, how important is it? I mean, the NFC wild card is such a mess at the back end of it with so many teams that can that seem like they still have a chance to make it. So I'm not exactly sure
right.
what the percentages are if they're locked into the 2 seed. Obviously, that 7 seed's wide open, but if they're the 3 seed, is it the Rams or yeah, I believe the
Because the
Rams
main
are
thing you
locked
want to
in.
avoid is the Rams at the
And that I
bottom of the
believe
NFC.
the Rams are definitely locked into the No, they're not definitely locked into because Green Bay's could be 9-8. They'd be 9-8 with a low. I don't know. I don't know all the schematics of it, but the Rams are 9-7 right now. Obviously, the loser of the NFC East is going to be the 5 seed. The Rams is as of right now are the 6 seed.
Yeah,
And
so
I
it's
know that I'm pretty sure
all
they're resting
finalizing at
guys.
6 and
So I
7.
would assume that the Rams are locked into the 6 seed. I'd avoid that if I was
Yeah,
Detroit.
yeah,
With that defense, I want no part of Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams coming into my house in wild card weekend and putting me potentially on
yeah,
upset alert. You look at that 7 seed, if you get the 2 seed, you're looking at Green Bay, you're looking at possibly Seattle, teams of that nature. So I would prefer obviously the 2 seed, and obviously it is the higher seed, right? But it's obviously not just up to the Lions to win this game. They need help from Dallas too.
yeah, exactly. And I think from the Minnesota Vikings perspective, I mean, you still have the dimmest chance out of all the teams that are still playing with playoff hopes. Um, it doesn't matter, right? Like if you get to the playoffs, like you don't have Kirk Cousins, you're not going too far. The Josh Dobbs thing flamed
That's
out.
done. They went away from Nick Mullins. Like
He
they
was
I
Nick Mullins, that one flamed out. So yeah, the Vikings are cooked here. Ultimately, I'm not looking too much into this game outside of Detroit standings. The next one we got here, Dylan, we have the Jaguars taking on the Tennessee Titans. This one's a little more straightforward. So basically, the Jags win this one, they win the
it's their
AFC
division.
South. Period. So they need to get a W here today in order to keep their playoff hopes alive. Now, to be clear, they can still win a wild card spot if they lose this game today. They would also need the Denver Broncos to lose, the Pittsburgh Steelers, to a Steelers loss, which already didn't happen. So obviously they can't get a wild card spot. So cancel
Yeah.
that. So yeah, gotta win this game today, win the division to make
Winning
the
you're in.
playoffs if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. Would that be one of the biggest disappointments of the NFL season if the Jags do not make the playoffs, let alone win their division? They should
Yeah.
have won the division, right?
Yeah.
But like to not make
To
the
not even be a
playoffs,
wild card,
that's wild.
right? When you're looking at teams like Joe Flacco leading the Browns, potentially Mason Rudolph and the Steelers, like you're looking at all these other AFC teams with what should be way worse quarterback play, right?
Yeah.
Injuries aside, yeah, I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars would probably be the biggest disappointment and underwhelming team to not make the postseason this year.
Injuries
Aside
aside,
from
that's a
the
good
teams
one.
that
Yeah,
lost quarterbacks for the season,
good point.
because I mean, dude, go back to obviously week 1. You and I were on the same page of this is kind of just playing with the house, right? Like they should win this division and they should run away with this division. Now, obviously, circumstances have changed, right? D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud in year 1 are 10 times better than you could have ever imagined they were going to be in year one. But you looked around that roster at the time and you're pointing at Dalton Schultz and Damian Pierce and Tank just obviously a bunch of unknowns at that point of the season. The defense is a lot better under D'Amico Ryans, and the offense is explosive with CJ Stroud, obviously, like you saw last night in that win. So they're a surprise. No one probably expected Gardner Minshew to come in with Shane Steichen and win as many games as they did. So that's a surprise. But no, this was supposed to be Jacksonville's division, rightfully so. And to your point, if you lose, not only do you not win the AFC South, you're not even the 7th seed. You don't even make the postseason. So that would raise major concerns for me if I was a Jaguars fan.
More on Trevor Lawrence or more on Doug Peterson, in your opinion?
I think it has to be a combination of both, right? You can't just pinpoint one or the other. I think that Trevor Lawrence has been very, very underwhelming for a large majority of the season.
That's kind of the real question I wanted to ask you in reality. Trevor Lawrence, where does he rank NFL, like top 15?
Yeah. I mean, at to start the season, he was bona fide top 10 probably, right? He's bona fide like
top 6,
9, 10. Yeah, if
I projected him at 6.
Right. So you look at that. He's just, you know what he's been, Scott? He's been average. He's been middle of the pack. He's 13th in passing yards. He's got a TD to interception ratio of 19-12. His 19 passing touchdowns are 17th in the league. He's 14th in QBR. Like, he's just been average. And that's not what they were looking for when you go out and you acquire Calvin Ridley to this offense that you really thought was going to put it together. But in the same token, it is obviously it's always going to come back on the head coach. And some of these losses, man, like a few weeks ago when they were playing Cincinnati against Jake Browning and Trevor Lawrence got injured, if they would have won that Monday night game, the Jacksonville Jaguars would have currently been the number 1 seed in the AFC. That was like 5 weeks ago. Like that's like Eagles territory drop off right now. Yeah. Like whatever they are over this course. 1-4, 1-5 over the last couple of weeks. It's crazy. Yeah, and it definitely it affected their offense. But to sit here and say, like, just take the name for what it is, Christian Kirk.
They have Calvin Ridley.
If Christian Kirk being removed from the equation dismantles your offense that greatly, you got bigger issues. You gave him the money, whatever. He's a great slot option. Obviously, the team would be better with him on the field. You have Calvin Ridley. You have Evan Ingram. You have Travis Etienne. You have a guy, which, by the way, quarterbacks that are top 10, they're supposed to what, Scotty? Elevate their wide receivers. Elevate their team. He doesn't seem
that's the problem. Doing that. That's the problem with Trevor Lawrence I have is that, sure, you can make excuses, injuries. Christian Kirk, he's the go-to guy. He's the possession, the slot receiver in that offense. I get that. But when you have, Travis Etienne in your backfield, right, a guy that can take over games from receiving or running the football. You have Evan Ingram, a top 10 tight end for everybody's money here, consensus. Maybe even higher than that, right? Yeah. And then Calvin Ridley, he was supposed to be added to this offense. There was people out there comparing this addition to the likes of A.J. Brown, right? Like giving Trevor Lawrence that number 1 that he hasn't had. And it just hasn't came into fruition. I would even argue, man, I would have to go and look at the numbers. So I won't, plant my seed on this point or plant my flag on this point. But in my mind, I'm going through this conversation. Was DJ Moore a better addition than Calvin Ridley for the Chicago Bears than, Calvin Ridley was for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
You want me to answer that question?
To Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm at in my head now with that conversation.
DJ Moore has had a 100% bigger impact in Chicago than Calvin Ridley has
had. Could just be the better receiver, right? Like, that could be the case.
Right, but how much better, honestly? From a talent perspective, like, I know Calvin Ridley suspended, missed all that time over a year of play. That definitely takes a hit on who you are, but talent, like DJ Moore is not a top 10 wide receiver, right? I mean, he's close, but
he's good,
top 15, right? Probably somewhere around there. Well, what's Calvin Ridley? Calvin Ridley's definitely top 20, right?
Yeah.
So
not far.
The drop off isn't anything crazy. So it's weird. And you would think with a team like the Chicago Bears and the issues they were having earlier in the season, that would be the team that doesn't know how to utilize their weapon.
Right.
And for some reason, whether it's Trevor Lawrence,
Right.
whether it's Calvin Ridley, whether it's Doug Peterson, Jacksonville hasn't utilized Calvin Ridley the way that we thought they were going to, right?
Yeah,
But to get back to this game,
completely agree.
I do believe that the Jags are going to win the AFC South Division. I think they
Yeah.
will win today. This is probably the most interesting game of the week in terms of which team can play. Spoiler, I think that Will Levis, I think they're going to try to go out. Mike Vrabel's going to try to go out,
Yeah.
obviously, and win this game. They're not just going to lie down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is the most interesting one, but I do think at the end of the day, they'll get the job done.
Yeah, I do tend to agree with you. You just have to hope, if Trevor Lawrence, not even that if he's anything close to what he was supposed to be coming out of college, but just anything close to a starting quarterback, come out and win this game for your team, right? Lead them to victory and go to the postseason, see what happens, right? That's what they did last year. It shouldn't have been that way this year, though, right? They should have been able to lock this division up early, lock in their postseason position, and have their eyes set on the postseason. But now they have to play in the final week and against a division opponent that is going to look to ruin their season. Tough spot. I do agree, though. Jags backs on the wall. They got to get that W. The next game, this is another game with major implications. We have the Atlanta Falcons 7-9 visiting the New Orleans Saints at 8-8. So with this game, if Tampa Bay loses this weekend to the Carolina Panthers, the winner of this game, Atlanta and New Orleans, would ultimately win the NFC South. So the Saints actually have a bonus scenario for a wild card spot. If the Bucks hold off the Panthers and clinch the division, the Saints would still make the playoffs if they win this game and both the Packers and Seahawks lose their games. So there is a way that New Orleans could win this game. Tampa Bay win their game against Carolina. New Orleans still make the playoffs in this scenario if the Packers and the Seahawks lose their games. Let me ask you this about this game. Bad question, actually. I take it back. I was going to ask you which one would you rather see in the post. I think this is a pretty easy answer, right? As far as interesting matchup, right?
Yeah.
New Orleans Saints are the better team, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Am I right there? You would take Derek Carr over Desmond Ritter. I was going to ask the question, but I feel like it's fairly obvious.
Yes. I mean, if you're asking me as an Eagles fan, who would I rather potentially see? I'd rather see the Atlanta Falcons in terms of watching a good football game this weekend or next weekend, I should say. Then, yeah, the New Orleans Saints should win this game. And listen, okay, we just talked about the Jacksonville Jaguars being a disappointment, especially if they don't win this game. The New Orleans Saints will be a huge disappointment. Now, there are things kind of out of their control where they might not make the playoffs even if they win. But if you lose this game and don't even give yourselves a chance to make the postseason, you finish a game under 500, that is a pretty big disappointment in itself. Baker Mayfield goes to Tampa Bay and wins the division. You lose to Desmond Ritter in your own crib in week 18. You brought in Derek Carr to be a difference maker.
Yeah.
You have Chris Olave. You have Alvin Kamara. Yeah. You brought in Jamal Williams. You have a pretty good defense, above average defense in New Orleans. You're at home. If they lose this game, I mean, that's borderline right there for me with Jacksonville for how disappointing they would be.
Let me ask you this. How much of an indictment on Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield would it be if a Desmond Ritter team led the way and won this division? Right. Yeah. The Bucs go out here, blow this game against Carolina.
Lose to Carolina.
Very simple for the Bucs. Win the game and you're in, lose the game and you're out. Yes. Right. You go out here, blow this game against the Panthers. They blew the game against the Saints last weekend where they could have locked it up there, right?
Yeah.
Then the Falcons go out and beat the Saints this weekend. That would be a major indictment on the Saints, Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield as far as leading a team, right? There's no way Desmond Ritter should win this division. I don't understand it. He's been benched 3 times. Taylor Heineke comes in, and you know what I mean? They've been going back and forth this season with those two guys, whether it's Taylor Heineke or Desmond Ritter. it would really kind of, I don't want to say blow my mind that the Falcons win the division, but they
No,
should.
it would blow my mind
Yeah.
if he wins the division. When you take everything into account, the dude got benched for Taylor Heineke and then got put back in. They drafted Bijan Robinson incredibly high. They don't use him correctly. Kyle Pitts still remains a non-factor for a majority of the weeks played. So with all of that, like, yeah, it would surprise me if Desmond Ridder leads this team, but it would be, like you said, a huge indictment. We can kind of combine these two games together because, like you said, division, the Bucks win, you're in, you win that division, right?
Yeah.
If the Falcons lose, you're out. If you win, you still need help. Same with the Saints. The Bucks, you mentioned if Baker loses. I hope not, because that is my best bet of the 1 p.m. slate. I'm taking Bucks minus 3.5.
Would that ruin Baker's like bounce back season? Like it would ruin it, right?
I
like,
think undoubtedly.
he gets the starting
Dude,
job
it's
next
not
year?
just not making the playoffs. So look who's across the field from them today.
Yeah, that's
You
the thing.
can't lose to that team today. Bro, that would be like if the Eagles needed to win and get in today and they lost to the New York Giants today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Eagles don't need to win to get in, but if they did, let's face it, the Panthers are worse, way worse. So like
2-14,
it's to another level where, like, yeah, I agree. Like Baker has had a Pro Bowl caliber season. The comeback has been amazing, right? He's fun to watch. He's got the weapons. You can't lose to the Carolina Panthers, who have fired their head coach already, who look like they whiffed on the number 1 overall pick when you see what's happening in Houston. They have 2 wins. You can't lose to that team. All right, let's just say that. So with that said, I am taking the Bucks in this game, and I'm going to take the Saints in the South and maybe the Saints against the Falcons and see if the Saints can sneak their way in the back end.
Be interesting if the Saints could, because, interesting enough, I don't know. How do you feel about between the Saints, Packers, and Seahawks? Like who's the toughest team of those three?
I think it has to be Seattle, right? Like I know Seattle's gone through like some ups and downs.
The talent,
I think the talent is definitely a little elevated from those other teams. I would like to say the Saints, excuse me.
They just haven't lived up to it though.
Not at all. Not even for like 2 weeks straight, bro. Like they haven't put together a 2-3 week performance where they look like, okay, if you get that team, you're a little worried. No, they haven't. Even when they win games, it's unimpressive. The Packers, cool. Like literally, I don't think they had a single Pro Bowler. So the fact that Matt LaFleur has them in position to make playoffs,
I did not know that. That's wild.
But I'm not taking Jordan Love over the Seattle Seahawks. So yeah, I would say the Seahawks are the team that you probably don't want to get that 7 seed, right? Especially like we were talking about, if the Lions are the 2 seed, Seattle went to Detroit, won an overtime game back in week 2. So that would be a crazy matchup there in itself. But yeah, that next game, man, like you said, that Packers game, that has major implications. But I think the other side of the field is interesting as well.
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears, you win 8-9. Justin Fields has shown major improvements over the last half of the season. What do you do? You're looking at the potential number 1 overall pick from Carolina. What do you do there? Are you moving on from Justin Fields for Caleb Williams? Like, I don't know, because here's my take on it.
It's a really tough spot.
Obviously,
Justin Fields finished the season strong, honestly.
He has.
Really well the last few weeks.
I will say he has not just put those questions to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Like last year, Jalen Hurts last year put those questions to rest. Like there were no. Yeah. Went to Super Bowl, should have won MVP. Like no questions.
Yeah.
Justin Fields has not just shoved those to the side and said, I'm the guy, right?
Yeah.
However, you've seen all of the improvements. And Caleb Williams' season in USC obviously did not go the way that they or people thought it was going to go, right? Very bad. He missed the last couple weeks. But the prospect, and you know me, man, I am much more of a proven thing more than a risk and a chance.
Yeah.
This dude is like, remember like Trevor Lawrence coming out of Clemson? Like this is another level.
My only worry, man, is specifically Chicago. Like if it was any other team, man,
Yeah, that's
I
true.
don't know if I just see Caleb Williams like fitting in Chicago, like the cold, right? This is a kid that is at USC,
Right, Southern
right? This is a
Cal,
kid that wants like part ownership of a franchise, right? Like
which which
I
is
don't know if I
a
see him
ridiculous statement.
in Chicago. You know what I mean? I do feel you. Prospect wise, I think all day you take Caleb Williams over Justin Fields, especially what you've seen since Justin Fields has been drafted. But I just don't know, when you think about what you could add to your team, having those draft picks, maybe not using it on a quarterback and just keeping Justin Fields. But the other side of that, you flip Justin Fields, what can you get in return for him? So I think
Right.
that would be the caveat. It's like, am I listening to calls on Justin Fields? Absolutely. I want to see
Yeah.
where other teams value him. And if somebody out there is willing to give up, a first round pick that is in like the top 15 for Justin Fields. I don't know if that's the valuation of Justin Fields right now. I don't know if he's multiple first round picks, if he's one first round pick. Like he is a quarterback that has a very dynamic skill set, right?
Yeah,
And he is showing signs of positive development,
absolutely.
but is it at the pace that you want to see? And,
Correct.
for example, if Caleb Williams comes into the NFL, maybe he's not as good as Justin Fields the first year, but in the second year, is he on track to develop
Right.
faster than Justin Fields? Will
Right.
he be further along in his development than Justin Fields at
I
that
I
point? And that's
think there
something you have to
is
consider, man. It's
I
tough.
think it's one of the toughest decisions
It's really tough, yeah.
in the offseason that has to be made. It may be the toughest because
Because
you're
I'm not
talking about
out on Justin Fields. There's a
no.
chance he could become a
Yeah.
very good quarterback.
I
You
mean,
don't
dude, you're
know.
talking about the future and the trajectory of a franchise.
Yeah.
And if the Chicago you have to look at it this way. If you decide to pass on Caleb Williams for Justin Fields, and Caleb Williams lives up to all of it,
Yeah.
and Justin Fields never progresses more than what he is right now or a little bit further, that's going
That's
to be the
tough.
biggest whiff of all time. However, if you do make the move for Justin Fields, he turns out to be a guy. Caleb Williams doesn't really win in Chicago, and Chicago finally had a quarterback and moved on from him.
Yeah.
It's the biggest risk of the offseason for me.
Yeah, that's a good call, man. It really is. I don't know. It is interesting. It's like, what could you get for Justin Fields? What could you get for the first overall pick that could get Caleb Williams, right? Like, how valuable is that pick itself and what you
Yeah.
could get in return for it? So I don't know. I'd be calling Atlanta, seeing what do you guys think? Where are
Yeah.
your guys' heads at? Because I know
See,
you need a
now
quarterback.
or you draft Caleb Williams and trade Caleb. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Or you trade the first
Right.
overall pick for, you know what I mean? Like you trade the
Yeah.
first overall pick to who Atlanta or whoever wants to go get
Yeah,
it
yeah,
and
exactly.
add to there.
Maybe they
So
give you a haul. Maybe
yeah,
you get a
it's
Bijan Robinson in the
right.
first
I think
round, right? Like, I
yeah.
don't know.
I think Caleb Williams or Justin Fields in that offense with Bijan and Kyle
Yeah.
Pitts and Drake London, I think that would be pretty interesting. So
Quarterback
um
away and offensive coordinator away, I would
yeah,
say as well. They need a
absolutely.
coach in there, but
But the other side of this game, man, the team that can actually make the postseason.
yeah, that
What
one.
is this with Green Bay? Is this a winning in situation for Green Bay, or do they need help?
So for Green Bay, what's at stake? The Packers will make the playoffs with a win, but even if the Bears beat the Packers, Green Bay can still slide into the postseason with losses from Minnesota and Seattle, and then either New Orleans or Tampa Bay would have to lose. So Minnesota and Seattle would have to lose, and then either New Orleans or Tampa Bay, and then the Packers could make it with losing. Nonetheless, win the game.
Yeah,
Win the game.
yeah.
You're in Green Bay, right? You're in Green Bay. You're at home. If you want
Hey,
to make the playoffs,
hey,
win the
you want to
goddamn
be
game.
you
Like,
want that question figured out for Chicago? Justin Fields, go beat Jordan Love in
yeah.
Lambeau to keep them out of the
Who do
playoffs
you
and
like
finish
in
with the
this
same
game, man?
record.
Who do you really like?
I like the Packers.
Do
I
you?
do. Yeah, I think that they'll get the job done. I think the fact that LaFleur's gotten them this far, again with
Fair.
no Pro Bowlers, I think he'll
Yeah.
find a way to get the job done. I think their defense has enough pieces at home to barely I think this game's going to be ridiculously
Yeah, I
close.
think it's close.
Yeah. but I'll go with
I don't
Packers.
know. I was kind of leaning Chicago, but the Packers do have more to play for. It's just, some teams do inspire in
Right.
that spoiler
How
role,
like
right?
they do, but no one has more to play for than Justin Fields.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah. He's playing for his starting role, man. If he
literally.
wants to be in Chicago, yeah.
That's also very true.
I would rather be in Atlanta if I was
That's true.
Justin Fields. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I would rather go play in the dome in Atlanta,
Yeah.
Georgia. So
The
I don't know.
the
What's your thoughts?
Broncos Raiders both are officially eliminated, correct?
Broncos Raiders. Let's see here.
I mean,
So
if the Bengals are eliminated, I would have to imagine that the Broncos are eliminated, and then the Raiders would be eliminated a game behind them.
yeah, I think the Broncos. It's more about what they can do. No, yeah, neither team is in the playoff picture, and Las Vegas has a 38% chance to grab a top 10 draft pick. So that's a big
Yeah,
thing
so
there.
if I'm Vegas, I'm losing this game on
Yeah,
purpose.
lose the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, simple as that.
Seattle, Arizona, is that a win and get in for the Seahawks, or do they need help?
Seattle, the Seahawks would make the playoffs if they win and get a Packers loss.
Packers lost. Right,
They
right.
need to
Makes
lose.
sense. You're right,
Cardinals
right.
have a
Okay.
69% chance at the top
Let
at a
me ask
top
you a
5
question
draft
about this
pick.
game, though, from a betting
Yeah.
perspective. Seahawks -3. That's
In
it?
Arizona.
That's it, though? Like, I get it. The Cardinals just came to Philly and beat us. Ha ha, very funny. The Seahawks need to win to make the playoffs against a 4-win Arizona Cardinals team who just got one of their 4 wins last week. These things aren't just growing on trees and they're just rattling off wins. Seattle only -3?
Yeah. I think honestly, Dylan, based on what I'm reading here, it seems like the spread is based on how the Cardinals beat the Eagles last week. Like, I don't know if they're just getting hella juice from that win. Like, basically, what I'm reading here, they ran the ball 40 plus times last week. They controlled the clock against the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the same plan they'll come into today, trying to play spoiler. But like, I guess the Seahawks aren't that good. I don't know, man. That's weird. Seahawks 8-8. It is in Arizona. I guess they're just factoring in the spoiler role, man. That has to be what it is.
That's
Spoiler.
a crazy, crazy line for me. So, yeah, I love the Seahawks -3 at 4:00. But
Yeah, no, not a
um,
bad call there.
yeah, Chiefs Chargers, just Chiefs or
Are they playing their starters today? Do we know?
the Chiefs. Let's see.
The Chiefs
Uh,
will be the number 3 seed in the
yeah,
playoffs as the AFC West champion no matter what, so perhaps more eyes will be on the Chargers who have so no major implications here.
nothing there. Niners, Rams. Niners #1 seed. Rams locked into the 6th seed. Both resting guys. Doesn't matter there.
Yeah,
Bills, Dolphins, man, tonight. Winner takes the division.
that's the best one,
Loser
man.
slides to what? The 6th seed if Cleveland's locked into the 5 already. So
Yeah,
let
so
me
says here winner takes the AFC East in the conference number 2 seed, but while Miami is in no matter what, Buffalo could miss the playoffs if it loses. To make the playoffs in that scenario, it would need either a Jaguars loss, a
Oh.
Steelers loss, or a Texans Colts tie. So they
Well,
would need the
Texans, Colts,
Jags
and
to lose
Steelers
today.
didn't happen. So the Bills need to, I would assume, win the well,
Basically,
they'll know as well. Obviously, the
yeah,
Jags play Sunday night. So
winning they're in. Like a cinch.
that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Jaguars would have to lose for them to have a chance at making it
And I'll
with a
say
loss.
the Chiefs better have their eye on that Jags game and obviously Sunday night as well, because if the Bills win and both are in, the
They'll play
Dolphins are
the
the 5
Dolphins.
seed or the 6 seed, excuse
The
me.
6th seed. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll play the Dolphins first round. Tyreek Hill matchup. That would be beautiful.
You want that offense in the wild card
Things in
weekend?
Miami. Yeah, I mean, even from that perspective, it's like if you're the Chiefs or any of those teams at the top of the AFC, it's like just pray the Jags win, right? Like, because if the
Yeah.
Bills somehow lost this game tonight, they drop down to that 6th seed with a Jags loss or a 7th seed. And it's like you don't want the Bills in the first, you don't want the Bills or
Right.
Miami in the first round, period.
Correct.
Like Yeah, that's huge implications. Definitely
Yeah.
the biggest game of the evening here.
Who do
Where
you
are you
like here,
leaning in
man?
this game, man? Buffalo and my I'm kind of leaning towards Buffalo, man. I just think they are the more playoff built team, if that makes sense. They're a little more physical. They play in the cold, obviously. So um I don't know. I look at them as a little bit more of a tougher team, but that being said, Miami's defense has played a lot better down the stretch here.
Right.
They've
They
played a
they
lot
did
more
lose Bradley
physical and
Chubb last
aggressive.
week, obviously,
Good call,
which
yeah.
hurts.
They did.
Um, it is tough, man. Like Buffalo, both teams are confusing to me
Yeah,
because
up and
yet
down.
again, like Miami just keeps finding ways to get their teeth kicked in, it feels like, when they play valuable football games.
Yeah,
But the Bills, like, it seems like they're the sleeper, right? Like, take the Bills, Super Bowl odds right now because they're very juiced with the way they were playing. But then they go out and they look like the way they did against the Patriots, and they're
right.
just confusing. It's like, are
27 to
they
21.
fully in, or like what's happening with Buffalo? But I would agree that it just it feels like both teams are going to make the playoffs. And I think the Jags win. So for that to happen, Buffalo needs to win to get in.
Yeah,
I think Buffalo will ultimately win the game, but
because
you
they
you just
need it.
you never know. You never
Yeah.
know.
But Miami, you would do yourself and the rest of the
Right,
AFC a favor by
but
winning,
vice
right?
versa. If you're Miami, you go from hosting a playoff game to going on the road to Arrowhead if you lose this game, right? So
Yeah, playing in Miami sounds a lot better.
a lot better
So,
than going there, right? For sure. So we'll see, man. But and then here we are, the last little playoff implication here of the Sunday slate. You have the Eagles taking on the Giants at 425 on the road, and you're the Cowboys in
mm,
Washington taking on the Commanders at 425. It's very simple. Dallas wins, they win the division. They're the 2 seed. Eagles are the 5 seed. Eagles win and Dallas loses. Eagles are the number 2 or 3 seed. We'll see what I believe they would be the 3 seed, probably, right? They're a game behind Detroit right now, or are they tied with Detroit?
the Eagles or the Cowboys?
The Eagles,
The Eagles, I believe, would be behind Detroit
right? If Detroit wins, so yeah.
if Detroit wins,
So,
if
but
Dallas lost.
Eagles
Yeah,
win, Dallas loses. It's an Eagles division title. Dallas wins. It's a Dallas division title. Eagles are the 5 seed.
yeah,
Chips on the table. Eagles are the 5 seed. I mean, it's an interesting game. Dallas obviously is not the same team on the road as they are at home.
yeah,
Um, Both are playing division rivals, so you know that Washington would like to keep Dallas out. However, you're looking at a 4-win Washington team. Again, I'm not saying teams tank in Week 18, but in terms
yeah.
of draft compensation, do you really care about winning this ball game if you have a top 4 or 5 pick in the draft compared to a top 7 picks or whatever? So um yeah, I think it's very simple for me today. I think
And
that
you
the
know,
Cowboys.
it's funny, man, because it brings me to a point of the NFC East, and it's like, man, it feels like teams just bow down to the Cowboys, right, in the division, but we just got to get the number one shot each and every week that we play against them. I'm with you though. I think at the end of the day, the Eagles come out today. You try to win the game. Obviously, you still have a chance at winning the division. I think you have to operate with that mindset that you should try to win the division. You shouldn't just bow out. But I would definitely be keeping an eye on that Cowboys game. If they go up multiple scores at any point,
Yeah, the
pull,
starters are
pull
coming
all
out.
the starters,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like you're gonna not
And
play most of them, some of them anyways, right?
I would
Anyone with
assume
just a little bit of a tweak of an
it's
injury, you
also
don't play
currently
them.
snowing up in
Yeah,
MetLife.
MetLife
So
Stadium, nah, I'm good.
yeah.
But
I agree
keep
with
an
you,
eye
but
on it.
you do have to keep an eye on it because if
Yeah,
Dallas was to somehow fold and lose this game and you didn't play
look
your
really dumb.
starters and somehow lost,
Yeah.
that would be a disgrace and a disaster. But it
The
does
other
bring up
side.
an interesting point. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say for the Eagles, we're sitting here as fans, and it's like lacking confidence heading into the postseason. On one hand, you understand the assignment. You're
Yeah.
in already. It's not likely you even win the division. Stay healthy, get guys rest, etc. On the other hand, we're craving a good win, regardless of opponent. A good, not a win.
Yeah.
I am not. If the starters play, if Jalen Hurts is playing 4 quarters and the Eagles squeak by the New York Giants today, disaster.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
agree.
like the seesaw of, you understand the fact that you're most likely the 5 seed. Let's stay healthy. Bad weather, bad turf, everything. But also, I need something, man.
Yeah.
I need some positivity
The
at 4:30.
the ideal way for the Eagles to go about this game, and mind you, they haven't gone about games most of this season in the ideal way. So take that with a grain of salt. The ideal way for the Eagles to go through this game, you come out the first part of the game, you make sure that your offense is perfect in those first 2 to 3 drives, right? You need to get scores early, go up by double digits, and then you just go to the ground game, man. Pound, Kenny Gainwell, maybe use a lot of Boston Scott. If you want to activate Rashad Penny today, it would be the time. If you never wanted to use him before, you can use him now. I'm trying to keep guys like DeAndre Swift, Dallas Goedert, guys that have been tweaked this season. I'm trying to
Yeah.
keep them off the field as much as I can, especially being MetLife. But I think the ideal scenario for the Eagles here, you come out, you get your starters, they start the game. You have a well-oiled machine to start this game. You start fast, you get some scores on the board. But we know how this has gone this season, man. That's asking a lot, honestly. I'm just asking for them to take care of business and come away with a comfortable victory today, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't need to be sweating this out, come 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. this evening, 6:30, whatever the time the game will be ending
No.
around. I don't need to be sweating against the fucking Giants. I don't even care if
No.
Marcus
And
Mariota's in the game,
the
man.
sad truth here, Scotty, is I won't be sweating. I'll be in the
Yeah,
same boat
you're
I was
right.
against the Arizona
You're
Cardinals, where
right.
this team just made me clock out and
Yeah,
not care how this game ends,
yeah.
because whatever. Now, if
You
somehow
ain't lying.
Dallas is losing by 10 in the fourth quarter
Then
and
we're
we're in a
sweating.
close game, I might care a little bit more, even though it's
It's
ugly
gonna
on our
make me
part.
even angrier, though. You know what I mean?
Correct.
It's not gonna be
Correct.
like me sweating. I'm going to be angry. So yeah, man, come out, take care of business. This is a Giants team that, quite honestly, shouldn't even be playing for anything. The other side that I was going to mention earlier, that Cowboys Commanders game, you do have the Commanders. You mentioned the lack of motivation in that game. I mean, they could potentially get up to around the second pick of the draft with another loss. So
Right.
really shouldn't win this game. I don't want them getting anywhere close to Caleb Williams, by the way. So
Right.
please go out and win this game and help us out. But
Right.
I
And
agree
as
with you.
if
I
you're
don't see it
not top
happening.
2, you're probably not getting either, but
Yeah,
Caleb Williams or Marvin Harrison Jr., I would prefer
yeah,
not to be a Washington
yeah.
Commander. So,
They're in a top 5 pick position right now,
yeah.
basically no matter what. But like you said, they could fall 6, 7,
Right.
depending on if they win
Right.
a game here
But let's
today.
be honest, man. Maybe, like we said with Chicago, maybe they're that team that gets on the phone.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about ownership stake for Caleb Williams. I mean, is Washington not the most like ridiculously owned team with
Yeah.
other like Kevin
Yeah.
Durant?
You
Would
ain't
they
lying.
not like, who knows? That might be the best example of a team allowing Caleb Williams potentially to have any stake. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's stay away, right? Let's stay away. Let's go get a win.
No doubt.
Um,
No doubt, man.
but
I'm
yeah,
with you.
yeah. But I'll say that both win. I'll say the Eagles and the Cowboys win. The Eagles head into the postseason as the number 5 seed, which, boy, we've come a long way over the last 6 weeks or so. All right.
Disappointing finish.
Yeah.
Finish strong though, man. That's all we can ask at this point. It's not
Yeah.
going to change our perception necessarily for the postseason, but take care of business. Do what you're supposed to end the season,
Right.
man. It would be
Right.
good to see that happen.
No, I agree. With that said, though, man, before we get to our power rankings to end the show, last night's
Yeah.
game. By the way, we did these power rankings before last night's game, so I don't know. I forget what I sent to Scotty, so there might be different. So this was pre-week
Fair.
18 power rankings, okay? Steelers beat the Ravens in a ridiculously ugly game featuring Mason Rudolph and Tyler Huntley. So they did their part. They need some help to get into the postseason today. We'll see what happens there. But last night's game, winner gets a playoff spot and potentially wins the division if Jacksonville loses today. Shane Steichen and the Colts come up yay shy of beating CJ Stroud and the Texans. Kaimi Fairbairn, dude, misses that extra point, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that's going to be the difference. And like the second play of the drive, Minshew hits, I forget who it was, down, streaking over the middle. He gets into Texans territory with like 4 or 5 minutes left. I'm like, oh, here it comes. Look, Shane Steichen is a hell of an offensive coordinator. You can just see the confidence, right? Like he knows his plan. He knows what he wants to do, right? And you see him ready to go every play. Scotty, that timeout, man, before the 4th down play, that's a bad timeout to take. I mean, not only did you have the Texans on their heels and just run the play,
yeah,
you gave up a timeout to not have when the Texans got the ball back, which would have left you probably 40, 45 seconds rather than allowing the Texans to take it down to 7 seconds, take the safety, kick it away, game over. So clock management was terrible. And tell me if I'm wrong, I did not understand the personnel usage. I did not know who this dude was that they put out to throw the ball to on 4th down.
Yeah, I don't understand why you go away from your go-to guys in that situation, right? Like, at the end of the day, you have Jonathan Taylor. The ball goes in his hands in that situation, right?
He was eating them up.
I'm not putting the decision even in Gardner Minshew's hands, let alone a 3rd string, 4th string.
Right, because the throw wasn't perfect. It was. It made him turn around and go down for the ball.
Not even giving Gardner Minshew a chance to fuck that up. We've seen what he does in big moments. Gardner Minshew, great backup quarterback up until around the 4th quarter, right? And then you start to see it fall apart. The wheels come off. Not necessarily blaming this on Gardner Minshew, but yeah, you're right, man. Shane Steichen, just put the ball in Jonathan Taylor's hands. And at least then, if he gets stuffed, you live with it, dude. Well, like, you live with
what he did, Scotty, on 2 3rd and longs, that same drive, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, he ran the ball up the middle, and Taylor picked up both first downs. You needed like 1.5 yards, bro. 2 yards. And again, like, it should have been in Taylor's hands. If not Taylor, should have went to Zach Moss. If not Zach Moss, like, design something if Minshew's throwing the ball to get
back.
Right. To get Pittman or Alec Pierce or Downs the ball in space.
Yeah.
You put in like the 3rd string running back to catch a pass out with the game on the line. It made no sense.
QB sneak it, shit. Like, I don't know. Like, that would be better, right? Like, I don't know. Like, something better than that. That was actually disappointing from Steichen, but
like this was one of those plays where
made it, though.
This is one of those plays where like the media or players or coaches would say to like the fans, well, it's very easy to look back in hindsight. No, because to your point, anything else would have been acceptable in my mind if you don't get it. You rode Jonathan Taylor all day long in big moments. It worked. Zach Moss, a better option. Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce. Like you said, you need 1.5 yards. We line up. We try a push. If we don't get it, we don't. You call a timeout and put the 3rd string running back in the game.
Yeah, for a running back.
And by the way, listen, if he catches it, he gets the 1st down, but you also threw the ball short of the sticks. I mean, God forbid, like the Texans make the right play and he gets tackled. How do you not even throw the ball past the marker?
I don't know, man. It goes so much against what I feel like is Shane Steichen's philosophy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it just
in
goes
that
so much
moment, man. In that moment. But on the other end, CJ Stroud, dude.
The Texans make it, honestly. I think they have a better upset potential.
Baller.
Yeah.
Baller. Those throws are ridiculous. That first of all, you start the game taking a shot. I love the call from the Texans. Pinpoint, drop in the bucket, tutty. The 3rd down or 2nd and long play or 3rd and long play, he rolls out, just throws it to open grass and lets Nico Collins come up and make a play on it. The other play that resulted in Nico Collins' horse collar tackle was a dart over the middle of the field. He just made throw after throw after throw. And the thing I love about CJ Stroud, man, he just took what Indy gave him. Like, I remember there was a 1st and 20, a 2nd and 20. He just dumps it off to Dalton Schultz because no one was near him for 5 yards, but no one's near him.
Yeah.
So Dalton Schultz picks up 17. You didn't need to pick up the chunks in the air. Man. You just take what they're giving to you. And that's what he did perfectly last night, man. So I agree with you. The Texans I'm happy got into the postseason.
They're a
And I'll
fun
say now,
team.
looking back, I hope the Jags lose because I would prefer to see the Dolphins and the Bills make the playoffs with the Texans and the Browns in there than
Those are
have
the
the
better teams.
Jags over the Bills possibly. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be interesting, man. But the
Houston
last
right now, Houston would play Cleveland if it worked out the way it is right now, with them at the 4 seed, Cleveland at the 5. They would play Cleveland in Houston. Yeah, not the greatest matchup for the rookie quarterback. And I believe they did play earlier this season. The Browns beat them 36-22.
yeah,
And
I
that
don't
was
like that
in Houston
matchup
as well.
for I don't like that matchup for the rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
Their defense, while it's good, it's inexperienced, and Flacco and the way they can run, I don't know. I think that'd
Can
be a
we
very
agree
weird
that the
matchup.
Browns are going to the second round pretty much? Like, can we lock that
I
in?
think so. Whether it's the Jags or the Texans, if it's the Jags, I hope.
Absolutely,
I
right?
think it's a
Like,
stomping.
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
But
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
last
Cleveland Browns.
last few minutes here on the show. Again, these rankings were done prior
Yeah,
to Saturday night's games. And that is why for me, you do not see the Houston Texans on my list. Scotty, the same thing.
yeah,
Because just at that time, if they lose that game, well, they're not
they're
making the
out.
playoffs. So why
Yeah,
would I, you know what I mean? These teams, for the most part, are all making the postseason outside of my number 10. Right.
yeah.
So
I'd probably,
who
yeah,
would
I
I,
would have them in there over the Rams for sure. But yeah, I don't
who
know. The Rams at the same time, the Rams have played pretty good football though at the same time. So I don't know.
I'm looking around. Who do I? Oh, I don't have the Chiefs in. That's correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chiefs and Steelers are the
Right.
difference
Right.
there. Which
Right.
I mean, the
Okay.
Chiefs once again haven't showed. I'm
Correct.
going off Patrick Mahomes, right? Like we're getting closer to the
Yeah,
postseason. You
man.
just have to hope that they look,
Yeah.
decent. But to your point, I mean, they just haven't finished the season strong.
It's
Similar to the
just,
Eagles. Similar to the
it's
Eagles.
crazy though,
Both
man,
of these
looking
teams
at this
haven't
list,
finished the
right?
season strong.
If you have the Bills at 3 and I have the Bills at 5, and I think rightfully so with the way they've been playing, but if they lose today, they might not even make the playoffs.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's all about their recent play, right? They've
Yeah.
finished the season strong. Now, last week was probably the weakest they've looked in the last like 4 to 5 weeks, I would say, against the Patriots. But nonetheless, they did come away with the W. Put it together today. You get the what? The 3 seed or the 2 seed? We went over
For
it
the
earlier. I
Bills,
get so confused
the
between them.
Bills would have
Oh,
to
man.
be they would be the 2 seed because
The 2
because
seed.
the
That's
Chiefs
where
are locked
Miami
into
is
the
right now.
3.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Kansas City's the 3. So yeah, the 2 seed if they win. That's the
Yeah.
big
The
that's the
2
big picture.
seed, the 6 seed, or no seed is what the Buffalo Bills are looking at today. So win
Crazy.
and you're the 2 seed, and it's that simple for me, man. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up this final kickoff show, week of the regular season for here on NFL Turf Talk. Next week, we'll be back diving into all of the wild card playoff matchups, giving you guys our predictions, our best bets, and storylines, that and much, much more. If you are new to the channel, if you like the content, make sure to support by smashing that subscribe button over on the YouTube channel. It is the best spot to get your comments pulled up on the screen here with us on each and every one of our shows. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, have a great rest.